Soulslikes are cancerous. Let me explain. Cancer is essentially cells growing and dividing uncontrollably. I feel like that's a good representation of what Soulslikes have been in the last few years. It seems like every new game that comes out is a Soulslike or has some kind of Souls-like element. Whether it's good or not is beside the point. The point is that it's taken over and it's becoming a little bit out of control. A lot of games that come out nowadays are either branded as Soulslikes or try to avoid the Souls-like but have the same elements. So what exactly makes a Souls-like? The most important elements of a Souls-like is some kind of stamina bar that recharges, through different strikes and blocks and dodging. Speaking of, there's a heavy emphasis on dodging or some kind of mechanic that is like it, whether that is rolling or, side to side dodging or whatever it may be. The bonfire checkpoint system is one of the most crucial aspects. Lots of games have copied that style now, and even in some games that don't consider themselves soul-like have this bonfire checkpoint system. And then with the bonfires comes the healing items that recharge or refresh at some capacity at the checkpoints. When you die, you get your Estus flask or your gourd or whatever it may be. And then, of course, one of the biggest ones is the boss battles and waiting for some sort of opening for the bosses, whether that's just a bunch of dodging and blocking or just waiting for their combo to get down and then you go and hit them. The game doesn't have to have all these elements to be considered Souls-like, but in some capacity they mix and match a few of these or all of them, or maybe even some I didn't mention. Now there's been really good Souls-likes and really bad ones. Some of the good ones are games like Nioh or Hollow Knight, which is one of the best indie games that has ever came out. The Souls-like elements blend with that game beautifully, I would say. Lies of P is another great example. It's a Bloodborne-esque game that I would argue Hollow Knight and Lies of P are two of the best Souls-likes that are not from Software. And then we have bad ones like the first Lords of the Fallen and Dolmen, which are just, I would say, bad games overall. It just seems like they're trying to do something they're not experienced in. Souls games have been around since around 2009 when Demon Souls first launched, and some of these elements were in other games, but stuff like the bonfire checkpoint system was made by Dark Souls, and managing your stamina bar, making the game really difficult, and lots of environmental storytelling were really popularized by Dark Souls. They made this blend of a game that was not as popular at the time, but it grew in popularity as more games came out, I would say. Obviously, it did good enough job to get a sequel and everything, but it just kept growing in popularity until, we got Dark Souls 2, which was okay. I mean, it wasn't great. And then we got Bloodborne, which is still one of the best PlayStation hits of all time. Then we have Dark Souls 3, which a lot of people consider to be the best game in the series. Then we have Sekiro, which won Game of the Year and has the best combat within the Souls franchise. And then, of course, we have the big dog, Elden Ring, which is when this Souls-like phenomenon just blew up and just became out of control. With the release of Elden Ring, the Souls and Souls-like category went mainstream. For better or for worse, it became something that other games wanted to copy and were trying to piggyback off of Elden Ring's success. Some games did it great, like Lies of P, but other games did not. It just seemed like they were trying to get a game out quickly while Elden Ring's success was still in the mainstream. They could get some sort of cash grab game out there while people were still interested in the genre. But the problem besides these cash grab games is games have to defend themselves from the Souls-like title or embrace it, essentially. A perfect example of this is a game that just came out, Black Myth Wukong. The developers of the game stated many times that this is not a Souls-like game. This is just an action game that has, RPG elements and stuff like that. People have and still are saying that this is a Souls-like game. While there is elements to it, the elements don't necessarily make it a Souls-like. Like, we have a bonfire checkpoint system, we have the bosses, but you don't lose everything upon death, and it's not as hard as a lot of Souls-like try to be. While there is hard bosses, it's not as punishing as most Souls-likes are. I would likely more describe it as something like God of War, like the combat system and stuff like that, with some of the Souls-like elements. Like I said, the bonfire checkpoint system is definitely in there. But all these new games have to either defend themselves or embrace the Souls-like title, and I feel like that's not very fair to do that to every game, unless it's something blatantly different. Like, take for example Astrobot. Astrobot is a platformer like Mario or something like that, where it's obvious this game is not trying to be a Souls-like. There's not Souls-like elements in it. It's just a fun platformer. But if you have a third-person action-adventure game that has RPG elements and has a bonfire system or hard bosses or anything that Souls games have it's automatically put in Souls-like, and it's just something that's been happening, especially since Elden Rings came out, that I think just we need to revamp the term Souls-like to mean something that's actually Souls-like, not that just has the Souls-like elements. And I know a lot of people, me included, are tired of all the Souls-like. I would want a game that is just a different kind of game. Like, Space Marine 2 just came out. I have not seen or heard or think that that game is a Souls-like in any way. People are comparing that game to Gears of War, and I still don't think that's very fair, considering that series has been out way longer than Gears of War was. Regardless, that's besides the point. It just seems like people are trying to fit games into categories they do not need to be fit into, and Souls-like is the biggest example of this right now. I'm hoping this era is almost over. I don't really know if it's almost over. It doesn't seem like it's almost over, especially since Elden Ring released their DLC about 2-3 months ago. It started the term all over again, making it, it's like we just restarted. And I bet the next time, or whatever the next game that From Software releases that's a Souls game, whatever that may be, it will probably restart this cycle again of Souls-like. It seems like it's starting to die down a little bit, but as I stated with Black Myth Wukong, people are fitting that or trying to fit that into a Souls-like, and while I see where they're coming from to an extent, just because a game has some of the elements does not make it a Souls-like. They can have some of the elements in there and it not be a Souls-like. The way they mix and match Souls elements, I think, is the biggest indicator of if it is a Souls-like or not. And I feel like you can get the vibe off of it, but some people just want to fit it into that mold. And as I said before, I just do not think that's very fair. I'm hoping the Souls-like era is almost over. A few games here and there that are on the same level as like a Lies of P or a Hollow Knight is fine. Every game that comes out does not have to be a Souls-like or have to even have the elements. They can do something on their own and make a unique game that is just their image. If you lasted this long, thanks for listening to my rant. Whether you agree with it or not, I still appreciate you watching. If you disagree, just make sure to do it respectfully in the comments. I'm more than willing to see it from another side or, see your side of things, but there's no need to be disrespectful in the comments. So that's all I got for today. If you like videos like this, want to see more of me talking about games, whatever, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.